Hi, friends. Pastor Terry here. We are Dalhousie Church, and this is the 10-Minute Coach. We've been in the 10 Commandments. We come to commandment number 9, sermon number 8. In case you've been seeing numbers someplace, we did the first two together. And here we are, sermon number 8, commandment number 9, which of course is that the instruction from Moses, do not give false testimony. And sometimes that gets kind of simplified to the idea of don't lie, and yet that's a little bit inadequate, or maybe it's a lot inadequate. But I'm inviting you to actually explore that question with your family or with your life group today, in order to maybe make some assessments. What's the difference between simple lying and false testimony? And of course, I expect Dan will have said this. I'm not recording this in advance, but the reality is that false testimony is a reference to a criminal trial, a court of law. The idea that you have slandered someone by not telling the truth about them. And so we enter into the complexities of that, and I say complexities. Maybe that's not even the right kind of language, because of course, truth is truth. What happened? Who said what? What's the character of that person? And when we begin to slander someone's character, of course, we've entered into a whole realm of lies. So that's where the truth and lie piece comes in. And I'm inviting you to dig into the idea of false testimony versus lying by looking at Leviticus 19, where there is a specific example given. I'm inviting you to talk about slander, or look into the word slander and how that adds to our reflections on what Moses was instructing, or what the Lord was instructing through Moses in the Ten Commandments, Exodus 20, Deuteronomy chapter 5. And then to begin to maybe explore some contrasting words that I believe shed additional light on this idea. Why would we want to be truth tellers? Why is this the commission, the character that we should be carrying into our world? And of course, it starts with the idea that these 10 commandments are related to the idea of who God has revealed himself to be. They come out of the character of God. And so we want to reflect him rightly. We want to carry his name rightly. In order, if we're going to do that, we have to be like him, and he is truth. Jesus would say that I am the truth. I am the way, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father but by me. We know that he is a visible representation of who God is, Paul writes. We know that God himself is a lamp to my feet and a light to my path, Psalm 119, verse 105. The invitation throughout the Old Testament was, your word is a lamp to my feet, a light to my path. The word is to step out of the darkness of the world into the light of God's love. And to walk with him is to walk in the light. To walk with him is to be one who is a truth teller, one who does not slander either God or one another. And it is to be one who is a follower of Jesus. Now, I've invited you to look at a couple of passages of Scripture, and you're welcome to dig for more, which bring this contrast between Jesus and Satan. And we're told that John chapter 8, verse 44, that Satan is the father of lies. It's his native language. And so when we fail to become truth tellers, we are failing to represent God in accurate ways. I've begun by inviting you to ask some questions about the worst lies you ever told. Maybe I hope you're comfortable to be able to talk about it, because that was then. That was, I confessed it, I repented of it, and I am now walking in freedom from those lies. I remember as a child wanting to feel important. I'm talking little. I'm talking about 4 years old, as best I can recall, when someone had kind of gone missing. It wasn't really the case, but we didn't know where people around me, the adults around me, didn't know where they were. And I'm like, oh yeah, I saw them. She had this green coat on, and she was going that way. I don't know, like that was a ridiculous statement. I'm certain that I had not seen her, but I wanted to be important. Sometimes that happens. I had a friend who I eventually came to realize told a lot of lies, like had built an entirely false world around who they kind of purported to be. It started, I think the first one that I heard was that she had dated Prince Harry, like gone on a date with him because he was in southern Ontario and went to a school and she ended up and they danced together. And well, could be, could be. But then they got increasingly strained, and what eventually I came to realize was that there was hardly anything in the backstory of her life that was it was impossible to tell truth from fiction. That was a mental illness. There was something going on there, and I pray that she has gotten help. Our lives have gone in completely different directions. I pray that she has gotten the help that she needed, because lots of people were being drawn into this way of making herself seem important, and lies that I suspect she was eventually even believing. That's an extreme of where they go, but it is, a death by a thousand cuts. We start with where we are, and wanting to be truth tellers in the little things of our lives, because if we don't insist on truth, insist on accuracy here, and certainly this is where I'm a little conflicted on don't give false testimony versus don't tell lies. They're connected. They're not exactly the same thing, and yet I think as soon as you talk about false testimony, as soon as you talk about slandering someone, it's a bigger piece than lying, but lying seems to be the stepping stones towards false testimony, towards the slanderous accusations or slanderous statements about another human being. And ultimately, they come back to then slanderous statements and accusations against God. And that's where we begin to hit some particularly serious territory. These things that get said about God. And of course, I've quoted atheists like Dawkins who make horrific, slanderous accusations against God. And I'm concerned that if we don't get an accurate picture of him, if we don't see him as he is, then we end up in this territory, and is that the slippery slope? Does it begin by accusations against God? I'm not sure where the beginning point is, and I'm not sure where the death by a thousand cuts begins and ends, but I'm certain that there is something here that we need to be very careful about. It's one of the reasons why, in my teaching, I've tried to expose who God is. In our big picture series, when we went from Genesis through Revelation earlier this year, my intent was that you would see the greatness of God. You would see the greatness of the story that begins in Genesis, and then the fall, and then God intervening, and this long-suffering God who persists patiently and persistently, voraciously throughout history, working through the incredible brokenness of human beings until we get Jesus. He comes himself in the work and person of Jesus and makes a way for us to be restored to the Father, for our sin to be forgiven, atoned for, and now for us to be declared righteous and holy unto him. And what we're wanting to do is to live up into that new title that we've been given, and that requires our participation with the Spirit living within us, with the Word that instructs us, and then with the one another relationships that we have. Why we want to be part of the church, in order that iron would sharpen iron, in order that our own misguided interpretations of Scripture can be corrected because we're working together collaboratively, and in order that ultimately we better look like Jesus. And this is one of the things that we get out of the Ten Commandments. This is who God is, and we're being invited to reflect that in our world. I hope you have a lively and helpful discussion, and I will leave you with that. I'm Pastor Terry Lee. We are Dalhousie Church, and this has been the 10-Minute Coach. Bless you, and bye for now.